Gu is not merely a biological toxin. It is a spiritualized venom entity created through ritual isolation. Originating primarily among the Miao ethnic group in the mountainous regions of southern China, Gu represents a concentrated form of malevolent power. The term Gu refers simultaneously to the resulting poison, the insect or creature that carries it, and the spiritual force inhabiting the substance. This practice was historically a localized form of justice or revenge, operating outside imperial legal structures. The core mechanism relies on forcing extreme competition to concentrate lethal energy into a single, highly potent agent. Understanding Gu requires recognizing its dual nature as both a physical poison and a spiritual curse. The creation process demands absolute isolation and specific timing, often during the 5th lunar month, known as the poison month. Practitioners collect 5 or more highly venomous creatures, typically snakes, scorpions, centipedes, toads, and spiders. These creatures are sealed inside a single container, usually an earthenware jar, and left without sustenance. The creatures are forced to cannibalize each other over days or weeks. The sole survivor absorbs the concentrated venom and the spiritual essence of all the defeated rivals. This survivor, now imbued with immense destructive power, is the Gu entity, ready for deployment by the practitioner. Gu is categorized based on the creature used and the intended effect. The most notorious is the Golden Silkworm Gu, highly prized and associated with both immense wealth for the master and guaranteed lethality for the victim. Snake Gu induces wasting diseases, paralysis, and chronic pain, often mimicking severe internal organ failure. Toad Gu causes extreme swelling, bloating, and internal decay. Gu is administered through various means, most commonly mixed into food or drink, making detection nearly impossible. Less common methods involve smearing the substance onto clothing or objects that the target will touch, allowing the entity to enter the body through contact.
Gu is typically administered secretly, often targeting rivals, business competitors, or unfaithful partners. Initial symptoms are deceptive, mimicking common gastrointestinal illnesses, severe abdominal cramping, persistent vomiting, and high fever. As the Gu entity matures inside the victim, the symptoms escalate dramatically, becoming psychological. Victims often suffer from intense paranoia, vivid hallucinations, and profound mental distress, believing they are being eaten from the inside. Death is usually slow and agonizing, resulting from internal hemorrhaging or complete organ shutdown, confirming the spiritual contamination. Historically, Gu practitioners, known as Gu Po or Gu mothers, were predominantly older women within marginalized communities, particularly the Miao. They were simultaneously feared and respected for their specialized knowledge of poisons and rituals. The power of Gu was often believed to be hereditary, passed down through the female line, sometimes involuntarily. The Gu Po occupied a precarious social position, often ostracized by the dominant Han society, but sought out by those desperate for powerful, non-orthodox intervention. Their practice was intrinsically linked to local spiritual power structures, distinct from official Daoist or Buddhist temples. Removing Gu requires specialized ritual knowledge, as standard medicine is ineffective against the spiritual component. Cures often involve Daoist priests or local shamans performing elaborate exorcisms. A common method involves administering specific herbal antidotes, often derived from plants native to the same region where the Gu originated, forcing the victim to vomit the entity. The expelled Gu is often visualized as a small insect, worm, or mass of blood. Talismans inscribed with powerful protective characters and the use of loud noise, such as gongs or firecrackers, are employed to drive the malevolent entity out of the victim's body.
Imperial China viewed Gu sorcery as a profound threat to social order and state authority. Under the Qing legal code, the practice of Gu was classified as a severe crime under the category of witchcraft and sorcery. Punishment for practicing Gu was death by execution, reflecting the state's determination to suppress localized, non-orthodox spiritual power. These prohibitions were particularly enforced in the southern provinces, where Miao influence was strongest. The laws targeted not only the practitioner, but also those who knowingly sought Gu services, emphasizing the state's rejection of this form of folk magic. While the overt practice of Gu has diminished significantly, the belief in its existence remains strong in rural areas of Hunan, Guangxi, and Yunnan. Modern interpretations often attempt to rationalize Gu as extreme forms of poisoning using sophisticated biological toxins,
yet the spiritual narrative persists in folk culture. Gu stories have become a staple in Chinese horror cinema, fantasy literature, and television dramas. These modern narratives often romanticize the Gu Po figure, transforming her into a powerful, albeit dangerous, figure of ethnic mysticism, often exaggerating the magical elements for dramatic effect. Philosophically, Gu magic operates by concentrating extreme yin energy. The ritual isolation and cannibalism of the venomous creatures create a highly unstable, malevolent energy field. This concentrated yin energy is what contaminates the victim, causing both physical decay and spiritual imbalance. Effective cures must introduce powerful yang energy or specific elemental balances to neutralize the concentrated yin. The goal of the Gu master is not just physical death, but the spiritual destruction of the victim, ensuring their soul remains tethered to the destructive entity, preventing peaceful transition.